Cheat Code Support Strategist by myheadinthecoudsnotcomingdown. Read by Rat Overlord. Chapter 15. Petty. Summary. Isuku thinks about Katsuki. Isuku frowned in frustration as he turned off his computer and gathered his things in preparation to go to their core classes. He'd spent most of the afternoon watching Class 1A through the cameras as they did some sort of indoor combat exercise that All Might had put together, and it was frustrating. Don't get him wrong, it was amazing to see all the students' amazing quirks in action. It was just so frustrating to see them acting so far beneath their potential. Like the kid with the electricity quirk who fried his brain within seconds of the exercise starting, or the kid with a hot and cold quirk who didn't even use his heated side until the exercise was already over. They could do so much more. They could save so many more people if they just learned to think a little more creatively. And then there was Katsuki. He had everything. He had an amazing quirk, good battle sense, and even some of the techniques Isuku had suggested before Katsuki had started to bully him. He really did have the potential to be an amazing hero, maybe even the best, if he just wasn't so violent. He hardly noticed May started rambling at him as soon as he had sat down at his desk outside his workroom to wait for their teacher to arrive, until she slammed her hands down and leaned down until she was nose to nose with him. "Okay, what's up?" Isuku leaned back slightly and stuttered, "What?" May rolled her eyes and leaned forward even more so that Isuku was forced to lean all the way back in his seat until his head was touching the wall behind him. "You're dragging your feet! Didn't you get to watch the Hero Course fight today? I wasn't even expecting to be able to get a word in edgewise, but here you are giving only one-word answers." "Oh," Isuku shrugged. "It's just I was observing my bully's class today." Instantly, May looked murderous. "I can't believe they let that asshole in after what he did to you! And didn't he try to attack Extra Credit-kun during the exam? I should go straight to Netsu and tell him that he needs to expel that jerk immediately." Isuku interrupted her with a sigh. "You can't do that, May. First of all, my teachers purposely never reported the bullying, so there wouldn't be any red flags when he applied to UA. Second of all, he didn't attack Shinso. Even if he had actually hurt him, it would have just been seen as collateral damage or in retribution for yelling at him. Last of all, he probably shouldn't be expelled." "And why not?" May's yell caught the attention of the rest of the classroom. "He's a bully, Isukun! He made you miserable for years! He shouldn't be a hero!" "Wait, what are you talking about?" Kohaku interrupted, pulling off the scarf that she used to cover her hair while inventing. "What's this about a bully being a hero?" Nothing," Isuku said quickly. May shot him a glare before turning to the rest of the class. The traitor. "Isukun's old bully somehow got into the hero course. He was part of the class that Isuku had to observe today." "What?" Hansu bared his teeth, his normal wide smile becoming sharp and intimidating. "What's his name? I just want to talk." "Everybody stop," Isuku said sternly. "Nobody is going to do anything. Nobody is going to try to fight him, and nobody is going to Netsu. Understood?" May didn't drop her glare. "But—" "No." Isuku held her gaze. "So what'd he do today that put you in such a funk?" Kohaku asked. "Like, I was expecting to have to tell you to shut up at least 3 times. "See?" May gestured broadly to her. "I'm not the only one who noticed!" Isuku shot her a look. "It's nothing." "Yeah, no, dude," Hansu said with a small smile. "We're not buying that." Isuku looked around the room, hoping for someone to be on his side, but even Shiguro shrugged. "If it was really nothing, you, probably wouldn't be so insistent." Isuku sighed. He really should have expected that his classmates would be at least as curious as he was, especially after meeting May. This is what he got for joining the support course. It was just annoying. There was an odd number of students, everything about the student leaving because Eraserhead's hazing yesterday, so he was put by himself against 2 other students. one with a speed quirk and the other with gravity negation.
Huh, Kohaku chuckled. Shouldn't that be a good thing? I bet he got his ass handed to him, didn't he?
Isuku shook his head. He put them both in the infirmary. Like, I know violence is an inherent part of the hero industry. You can't defeat villains without hurting them, but none of the other students were injured badly enough to have to get medical attention. One of the signs of an amazing hero is actually how much they're able to avoid harm. He shook his head. I'm probably just being nitpicky because of our history. Probably, Hanzo agreed. But that still doesn't mean that he should be in the hero course if he bullied you, dude. What's going to stop him from going totally crazy and hurting someone who's not a villain?
Shiguro nodded in agreement. I wouldn't want to be one of my old bullies to be a hero either.
Yeah! Mei crossed her arms in front of her chest.
So I'm going to Netsu and I'm telling him to kick this guy out. That rat loves you enough to give you a whole room. I'm sure he'd be happy to expel him for you.
Isuku wasn't so sure, but surprisingly, he realized that it might not be outside the realm of possibility. It was so surreal to have adults who actually cared, and if that was all there was to it, then Isuku might actually be tempted to go to Netsu himself, seeing as he most likely wouldn't get punished for snitching. But the situation was a little more complicated than that. It's not that I don't want Katsuki to be a hero, so much that I just don't want him to be a villain. Does that make sense?
He's a bully, Isuku, Mei protested. He's already a villain in my book.
Isuku looked around and saw his classmates looking confused and still angry on his behalf, but he didn't see any of the understanding that he'd been expecting. He sighed. He has potential to be a decent hero, and his violent tendencies will be directed towards villains. But if he gets expelled, or worse, blacklisted, what'll he do? At least as a hero, his violent tendencies will be directed towards villains and people who deserve it, rather than a civilian who looks at him wrong.
Still doesn't mean that he deserves to be a hero,
Mei grumbled. Izuku shrugged. Maybe not, but it isn't even a big deal. It's not like I'm going to see him a lot. We're in different departments, and I'm going to start arriving to school early, so I won't even see him on my way to school. The only interaction I'll ever even have with him will be my analysis project that he won't even read anyway, so just drop it. His classmates didn't necessarily seem happy with his explanation, but at least they saw the logic in it. Isuku supposed that was about as good as he could hope for. Everyone here was extremely intelligent. They wouldn't have gotten in otherwise, but nerds often weren't treated the best. Add to that Hanzo's quirk and Shigeru's shyness and Mei's, well, being Mei, and there's a good chance that every single one of his classmates had been bullied at some point in their lives. Of course, they wouldn't be happy about letting a bully off the hook.
Well, there's gotta be at least some sort of revenge, at least, right?
Hanzo said after a long minute.
I mean, we can't just let that dude get off scot-free.
Mei's eyes lit up, so Isuku interrupted. That's really not necessary, guys.
No, Kohaku grinned. But it'll be fun.
Mei grinned in return.
Ooh, I like you. Come on, Izuku. Revenge, we're support course. We'll have access to all his babies.
Isuku rolled his eyes. As fun as that would be, he's still a hero student, and it's our responsibility as support students to support him, not sabotage him. Not to mention that faulty support gear could potentially endanger not only him, but also his classmates and eventually civilians. So revenge is out of the question. Kohaku thought for a long moment.
What about just being a little petty?
Isuku looked at her curiously, which she took as permission to continue.
I mean, obviously we wouldn't do anything to put him in danger or anything. That would just be stupid. But you know how annoying a tiny little rock can be when it's in your shoe?
Mei's eyes lit up again.
You're suggesting that we do a bunch of tiny things to annoy him?
Kohaku nodded, grinning.
It's how I got rid of all my bullies back in elementary school, before everyone learned not to mess with me. The big thing is plausible deniability. Don't do anything that you couldn't talk your way out of with the teachers if they asked. but will know, which will be really satisfying if he gets a shirt that's, say, half a size too small and slightly the wrong shade. Isuku thought about that for a moment. He had to admit that it might be fun, provided that no actual harm was being done, since he didn't want to become a bully in return or put Katsuki in any sort of danger, and if he could stop at any time, I suppose it wouldn't be too bad to get a little payback. Yes! May pumped her fist and hugged him, causing him to turn bright red as the rest of the class laughed at him. Oh, we're going to have so much fun! I'm going to make so many little nuisance babies! Someone clearing the throat behind them made the class freeze and then turn around to see Midnight standing in the doorway, looking like she just arrived. You're not being naughty, are you? Isuku and May shared a panicked glance before he sat up straight and gave a bright smile. No, ma'am! Or at least I wasn't. I'm already in my seat. Everyone else, however... The class rushed to find their seats as Midnight laughed at their reactions. Isuku simply smiled and took out a new notebook, labeling it Nuisance. He knew that this year was going to be so fun.